grew up in a union family. My dad was a carpenter, and of course, the unions were very, very closely tied with the Democrats. And I, the Democrats were very, very big in my household because of my dad. Would say, damn this person or damn that person, we need the Democrats to set us straight, it was all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
The Republicans did nothing for the little man, as my dad used to refer to the working class. He was
Of course
just
that would be shaping. Yes, of course.
yeah, and that's basically what I grew up with, when I was young, and I'm saying, like maybe 10 or 11 when I first realized that there was actually a president, and what the parties were and stuff. But I remember my mom said that she voted, and we're discussing presidential only because those are the only elections that I really remember. And she said that she voted for the candidate that had the nicest eyes, because your eyes were the window to your soul. And if she liked whichever candidate had the nicest eyes is the one that she voted for, because, it's like the building of trust. And I think that's probably where I started getting an idea that it wasn't the party, it was the person. And I, have been that way ever since. Now, when I was married, my husband was in the car business and had been in the car business our entire married life. And because I grew up in a union family, I didn't really have any animosity towards unions. But when my husband went into management, then, in the automobile industry, our income, because he was at the retail level, it kind of became anti-union in our household, only because of the fact that some of the stuff that the unions were doing was contrary. And of course, we had 4 children, trying to maintain a household with 4 children with a husband that worked strictly on commission, whose job was directly affected by, the automobile unions. It was kind of a flip. But that really didn't have that much of an effect on the way that I voted, because when it came right down to the last second where I was putting my mark on who I was voting for, it got down to whether I liked them as a person or not. Well, I don't vote along party lines at all. I have very close family members that, we just stopped discussing politics because they are so staunchly, and I hesitate to say Republican, but they are so staunchly Trump. Apologize if I'm offending anybody, but I have never liked Trump, even when he had his own show on television. I just thought he was mean and vindictive and a bully. However, I wasn't that crazy about Hillary. And I loved Obama. And so, Obama, um, Hillary, I have to be honest, I didn't vote for either one of them.
For who?
Yeah. For Hillary or Trump. I was definitely not voting for Trump.
So you didn't vote in 2016? Yeah, no,
no.
Be as honest as you can be. This
Yeah,
is
no. I was thinking about that, and I thought, well, should I say that I didn't? And heck yeah, no.
Well, obviously, it wasn't because you were too busy, right? You had a moral dilemma, or you had a, I don't know what kind of a dilemma of.
It was a moral dilemma. It really was, because I it gets back to the I thing, I mean, if you get right down to it, personally, I didn't care for either one of them. And so, I voted, but I didn't vote for president. I voted for everything else, because I did not want to be part of either one of their groups. Just to compare Kamala Harris with Hillary Clinton, I trust Kamala, I mean, when I talk to her, when I hear her speak, I trust her more. And I like the idea of people that are in power, to have empathy, I guess, is probably the best way to put it. But I think it was when Obama was elected, and I think a lot of that had to do with race.
You do?
I really do, because the racial divide, I mean, even in my whole family, I mean, I'm not afraid to say that my father was very racist, but he was one of the ones that if there were African Americans that would move in the neighborhood, he would be the first one to say, well, there goes the neighborhood.
How did you break from that?
Well, I lived in an integrated neighborhood, and I went to an integrated school. And so, in my mind, there really wasn't a difference. I mean, I had good friends when I was in school, that were of, all races, and I did go to a parochial school through the 12th grade. And there were a lot of ethnic groups that went to the same school that I did. But then when I went to college, I transferred to Michigan State University when I was a sophomore. And of course there, my view of the world, grew substantially. So I was never part of that generation that, for white Americans anyway, that had so distanced themselves from other races that, I think what it all came down to was probably fear. It's just one of these things where I am not my parents' generation. And I think that in a lot of people that are of my generation, that's where, the eyes were opened or starting to open. I'm an only child, and my both my mom and my dad raised me to be a very strong woman, and so I was allowed to voice my opinions at a very young age. Not that everybody ever listened to me, but a lot of the times, um, you know, in fact, there were times like in family groups where there were a predominance of adults that I would hear something and I would pipe up and give my opinion. And there was always somebody in the family that said children should be seen and not heard. you know i well, obviously, since I'm retired, I care about Social Security. I care about health care. My husband was a Vietnam vet, and he was considered 100% disabled. So, I've got very good health insurance on my own, and then I've got my VA benefit through my husband. That is the support. But I am interested in healthcare for everybody else, because I've got, a couple of my own children um, don't have health insurance because they are not working for companies that provide it. And so, or they're like independent contractors, I guess. That's probably what I should say. Climate change scares me. That really scares me. In fact, my husband and I went on a cruise to Alaska in 2017 because I wanted to see the glaciers before they weren't there anymore. I know that I remember Reagan because of the wall. And I thought, that was wonderful. But as far as the other ones are concerned, it's funny, I didn't think much of Carter as a president, but I really liked him as a person. And then when you look back and see everything he's done for Habitat for, humanity, it's kind of like, he really was a good guy. He may not have been the best president.
What do you think in terms of just, the ebbs and flows over the years? How have you seen our culture or society change kind of for better or for worse politically? I mean, in terms of what do you think?
Yeah, no,
have you
it's
ever seen us
definitely
divided or?
Yeah, never,
No.
never.
Even
In
during
fact,
like Watergate, even during the Vietnam War, I mean, you never.
no, because there were always groups, but they were never looked upon as the country. It's funny, going back and being as divided. It's kind of like the Vietnam War and the hippies. I mean that was very, very divisive. And back then I wasn't a hippie, but I certainly wasn't an older generation either. I mean, I was kind of right in the middle on that one. But I have never seen it as divisive as it is right now. And I especially, a thought hit me on the morning of the elections where they were talking about being prepared, for riots. And I thought to myself, what has this country come to? I mean, it's horrible. I can honestly say I absolutely hate where our country is at the moment right now.
I can see how you sort of have emerged as, and all along, it sounds like since you were young, you've really been an independent minded person, and that's refreshing. Yeah, that's refreshing to hear. So, I thank you so much, and I'll sign off.
You're welcome.